Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. I'm Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hey, Johanna.
Hey, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
You're not using enough Play-Doh.
Am I not?
Do you even have Play-Doh?
I don't. I personally don't use any.
Maybe that's
ever.
What's wrong at your workplace, is you also are not using enough Play-Doh.
With all the things, I'm not sure that's the one. What do you, right, just like that, just, I don't even know how to ask questions about it.
Okay.
What's the idea behind Play-Doh here?
Well, we've had 2 podcasts where we were talking about technology, and it was kind of doom and gloom and trying to get kids to pay attention, and they don't want to pay attention, and you want to know what's more interesting than their cell phone?
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. Not just Play-Doh, but manipulatives. It's really easy to forget to include manipulatives and remember that we're working with children, even adults. Like, if you want to get people interested in something, it takes very little to take your current content and insert. Our cat is struggling. She's just gonna have to be a member of the podcast today. But it takes very little to take the content you already have and just weave in some manipulatives that make the learning fun.
And manipulatives, from context, I think I know, but is that a term that people understand? We're going to probably have to let the cat out.
I don't know what her problem is. Okay,
Come here,
we will be back with you, audience members. All right, now that the cat's been taken care of, where are we at?
Manipulatives is a word I think I understand. Is it a word that people just know, or do you need to say what it is?
I think so. When you're using, like, stuff in the kids' hands to help them understand the learning.
Hands.
Yeah, to better understand the learning. So you might have cubes versus squares, right, in a math class if you were teaching the concept of volume.
Okay.
They forget. We get lazy. Lazy's the wrong word. We get busy, and it feels like a lot of work to incorporate, like, hands-on activities into the learning. And I have some tricks on how to make it not work. And
how to make it
better.
not work, or how to make it
not work.
Yeah, okay.
Like, it will make learning fun and interesting, and that will cause the kids to be more engaged, and you won't be having to comment on their cell phones. And so this is the fun, uplifting, how to make learning fun and teaching fun. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun for everybody.
And you can see the trap of, like, if you're saying, oh, I'm going to teach this person a thing, like, they don't need something to do with their hands to, like, get the information and then do it, right?
Like a history class. It could be really easy to focus on the analytical element of history and not incorporate in, like, it sounds like it's going to be work and it's going to take time away from the student learning. And so I've got some tricks to make this go. Got it. Okay.
What's the trick?
Okay, so step 1, here are some basic things that you need in your classroom. So 1, Play-Doh. I do not purchase my Play-Doh. I make my Play-Doh, and it works better and for longer than...
You're going to get us sued.
Why?
You can't make Play-Doh.
Oh, what am I making? I think I am. I'm making Play, D-O-U-G-H.
Oh, can you do that? Yes.
Yeah, they changed it to the other one.
Okay.
I'm really sure.
Make Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Got it.
Okay. So I make my Play-Doh. I use a recipe that I found when we were at the Phoenix Children's Museum. But basically, it is 1 part flour. So you do have to be aware of any kids that have, like, celiacs, or some kids will react. Like, if they're allergic to flour, they're allergic to touch it too. So just know. You're making a face at me, but I
don't think that's true.
I've had some crazy allergy kids.
Celiac is bad enough, though, that, like, the residue from having it on your fingers you can eat later and it'll mess you up.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Anyway, fair warning, I've heard you can make this using rice flour. I've just never done it.
Okay.
So 1 part flour, to 1 part water to a half a part salt.
Half part salt?
Yeah, so if you do 1 cup flour, 1 cup water, then you do a half a cup salt. I tend to make big batches.
Thank you for assuming I don't know how part works,
sorry.
but that's a lot of salt.
It is a lot of salt.
Because I guess you're not going to eat it.
Well, I mean, if kids eat it, it's not going to kill them, but it's going to taste super bad.
Yeah.
Then you add oil. I just kind of put a dollop in. I would say about a tablespoon of oil. And then the nice thing about the oil is if you don't use enough, it's going to stick to your tabletop. So I use a healthy dollop. And then cream of tartar. I don't know the exact amount you're supposed to put in, but I generally put in about a tablespoon, basically the same amount of oil I put in cream of tartar. Could be that you could use a lot less. It's just I'm a simple cook, so I like all my things to be similar.
Flour, water, salt, oil, cream of tartar.
Yep.
Okay.
I mix it up in a nonstick pan because I don't like to do dirty multiple dishes. And then I put it on low to medium heat, which Jared will make a face on because he thinks the only temperature I know on the stove is high.
This is the one recipe to put it on not max.
Yes, this is the only time I don't think that all the heat is important. And you stir, and it will slowly come together over the course of, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. It will come together in... you'll be like, oh, I've got Play-Doh. Or it starts to look like Play-Doh. Take it off the heat, keep stirring it and mixing it, and you'll just have Play-Doh. And it will be kind of a white-ish color. Then how I add color is once it cools down a little bit, I put it into gallon bags, and then I actually squirt the color right into the gallon bag. I seal up the gallon bag, and then I mix the Play-Doh up. I am currently squishing my hands, there's something in my hands. But I squish up the color into the dough in the bag. So nothing is getting dirty because this is another Johanna cooking secret. I don't like mess. You can even add glitter in there if you want to for funsies. And the color will all absorb into the dough. And then I just use that same gallon trash bag. That's its storage bag. If it ever got left out...
Not trash bag, though.
Oh, not trash bag, a gallon.
Like a Ziploc bag?
Ziploc bag. That's what I meant. A Ziploc bag. If it ever get left out...
we put our Hasbro Play-Doh in our Johnson & Johnson Ziploc bag or whatever companies they are.
Yeah. If it ever gets left out, I actually just add a little bit of water and give it 12 hours, and then you just re-squish it around in the bag, and it goes back to Play-Doh. I've used the same Play-Doh for I think it's a couple of years old now. And it's fine. At a certain point, so many hands touching your Play-Doh, and you gotta, it gets gross. But that store-bought stuff, crumbles, I don't have an issue with that. If it gets crumbly on you, there's a chance you either have too much or too little oil, or too much salt. But on the other hand, if you don't have enough salt, then it dries out. So it's I don't know what the exact answer is. But that is how you make your Play-Doh, and then you have it, and you have mass amounts of it. And what I've just described takes me counting cleanup 15 minutes to make.
Why don't you put the food coloring in while you're cooking it?
Because I want different colors.
Oh, you make a big batch and then separate.
Yeah, again, Johanna is about simplicity.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I might make 5 cups of Play-Doh.
If you only wanted one color, you could put it in while you're cooking.
You could.
But you don't need to because you can separate it out.
Yeah.
And squish the color in the bag.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Play-Doh also, if you want to teach color mixing for some reason, if you take yellow Play-Doh and red Play-Doh and mix them together, you will get orange Play-Doh.
No. That's not how color works.
It is how color works.
Magic.
Okay, so you need some Play-Doh, and now you know how to get it. And then you also need scissors, paper, and glue. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, I mean, okay.
Okay. And you want to be able to store all of this stuff in open caddies. So you want the paper to be in an open container where it's standing upright. you want the scissors to all be in a caddy. So when you want the scissors, you just start taking out a whole caddy. I hate glue bottles. I do not use glue bottles. Instead, what I recommend is a lot of the big box stores will even sell gallon glue. And then if you go to the cooking aisle and you get what you're making faces.
No, I'm following. I'm excited to see where this is going.
So you go to the cooking aisle, and in some big box stores, you can get clear see-through, like you would put oil in them or ketchup or mustard, but they're not red
They're like
and yellow.
generic ketchup bottles.
Yeah, they're like 88 cents or something.
Yeah.
And then that is what I put my glue in. I do have a video that teaches, and I used to, I show it to high school kids are not immune to a dot, dot, dot is a lot. You have to teach kids how to make dots with the glue, but it takes like 2 minutes, and then they'll make dots with the glue instead of like big old like puddles of glue.
Why are the salad oil bottles better than the regular glue bottles? Why don't you like glue bottles?
Oh, you say that because you are not a teacher. Okay, if you do not perfectly shut them, then they get clogged. To unclog them, it is like an hour worth of work. They actually don't have very much glue in them. So if just one kid is using a glue bottle for just them, they might be fine. But if you're using the same 10 glue bottles for 200 kids, you're going to be out of glue in a heartbeat because there's only like a couple of ounces of glue in those bottles. Whereas when you buy the big...
She just said a dot, dot, dot is a lot.
Yeah, but trust me.
How many ounces are in a dot?
And then the kid doesn't close it, and then you're... oh, no.
The little orange top thing.
Oh, no. It is not a solution.
Okay. All right.
No. The worst thing ever is to be teaching and the kid needs the glue, but the glue will not work because someone down the road did not close it correctly, and now you've got a kid who doesn't have glue and you have a glue bottle you now have to unclog, which is not easy to do and sometimes breaks the top. Anyway, it's a whole separate category.
Okay.
Glue sticks are expensive, so that's why I don't go.
Glue sticks are good, but they cost a lot.
Glue sticks are great, but they cost a lot.
Okay.
If you're trying to do projects with a bunch of kids, yeah, just go straight up glue.
All right, that little side road.
Yes.
Scissors, paper, glue.
Scissors, paper, glue.
Good glue bottles.
Yep. Blocks.
Blocks, like wood blocks?
Yes.
Like I played with when I was a baby?
Yes. They are good for everything. Get yourself, if you hunt around, sometimes you can find them like in a school warehouse, like that your school actually has sets of blocks people just aren't using. Otherwise, garage sales or secondhand stores. But you want sets where the blocks are all kind of different shaped. You can get colored ones. You can get just plain wood ones. They are good for so many things. Like you want kids to reenact a scene that they read about. And instead of writing a summary paragraph about what they read about, they use the blocks and like little Lego characters and create the scene and like act it out for each other.
Okay.
Like it sounds silly, but that's why it's fun. Is, like if you're reading about a war, it's a lot of fun to like set up and have your war.
It beats writing a paper about it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you should replace everything, but a lot of learning, sometimes you just have to do some grunt work to get all the content knowledge in there, and just talking about it, they'll forget it the next day. But if they had to make a stupid little skit and then they had to share with the group next to them their skit, like you'll be surprised how they'll get into like this random Batman character that you have is now like
George Washington crossing the Delaware. Because Batman snuck across the river and then killed all the jokers when they were asleep.
Anyway, they will get into it. You just need some blocks so they can create their scenery and like some little action figures.
What do I do with the scissors, the paper, and the glue?
Everything.
I don't really do anything with scissors, paper, and glue, so...
Really?
No.
You can... So, scissors, paper, and glue take away the stress of drawing. So kids, if you try and have them make a poster or something, they'll get all sorts of anxious. But if you like tell them, So paper can be 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional, right? Teaching them simple little tricks like making a little tab so their character stands up. And they could represent science, history, technology. They can represent all sorts of processes of understanding their learning by making either flat 2-dimensional things where they cut everything out of paper and then just added words, or like 3-dimensional little dioramas. And it's quick. Drawing takes forever. Cut paper, quick. They can do in tons of stuff in 15 minutes.
Well, this is all in service of the stuff I always thought was pointless. They like when you learn something and then you like, I don't know, what do you call it in education? Like crystallizing the learning.
Sure. You can call it crystallizing if you want.
But you like learn about a thing and then you have to make a dorky poster to like waste time after you learn about a thing. I always thought.
I'm glad you said it this way. That's not how I would use these supplies.
Oh, okay. What is it for then?
Oh, Jared. Okay. I have the supplies out during the learning.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go through all the supplies and then I'm going to explain. That's important. We got to get back to that. Okay. So you need blocks. You need oil pastels. If you are not an art teacher, you don't know what an oil pastel is. Basically, it will make you think, why did people ever use crayons?
They're just better crayons.
They are better crayons.
Okay.
Crayons are cheap versions of an oil pastel. Well, crayons are not real crayon. Anyway, that's a long story, the history of a crayon. But oil pastel is what you would prefer to have. And then tell me how to pronounce the name of the brand I like.
Spell it again.
Niji.
Niji?
Sure.
Niji?
Anyway, that's the brand to get.
Niji?
They last forever. You do not need a bunch of them. Like, I have one set of basic colors. I have a set of neon, and I have a set of metallics. And that lasts a long time. Like, that can last you years. But it gets fast, instant color, and they're addictive to use. So, no crayons, but you do need those.
They're addictive just because it's really satisfying to, like,
oh, yeah,
move your hand, and then this just like, bright
magical color comes out.
Yeah.
And from a teacher's perspective, they're not hard to clean up. You don't want them to get crushed into like a carpet. But other than that, they clean up really pretty well. I don't have an issue with kids misusing them. They're too satisfying to use on the paper. Oil pastels aren't really intended to work on anything other than paper anyway. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one's going to sound funny, but you need butt paper rolls.
Butt paper, like in the bathroom?
Yeah. It is called butt, like
Cottonelle or Colted Northern.
But in your area, there's a chance that you have some paper company.
I hope there's some butt paper. It's really distressing when there isn't any.
Going back to the corn cobs. When they do like mass printing, the machines have to take some of the paper and it goes through like the rollers, but they never actually print anything on it. Mm-hmm. So they end up cutting those off and throwing those away. So there are these, I don't know, like 100-foot long rolls of paper. Or no, like the paper itself is anywhere in between like 12 inches wide to like 24 inches wide. And then it's just a really, really, really long roll of heavyweight paper. Mm-hmm. You get them for free.
Like book paper?
Like book paper. No, it's like nicer than book paper.
Like textbook paper?
Yeah, like textbook paper. And if you call a printing company, you're going to literally take them out of their recycle bin. They'll load up my van until they're like, you shouldn't put any more paper in that. And then I have a supply that lasts my school years. And so it's cool because what you can do with that is roll it out. And so you can do continuation. Like a lot of times we're talking about processes, right? We're talking about something starts here and then it ends here. And so if you have a really long reading, you can chunk the reading and then chunk the paper. And then if I'm reading pages 5 through 7, this part of the paper, I'm required to like diagram or show the learning from that piece, but we're all working on this long stretch of paper. So it like naturally creates a quiet classroom because you have a long line of kids. Everyone has separate, like it can go on the wall, and it's a totally free resource. Like it's magical. Like there's so much you can do with this long roll of paper.
Yeah, that sounds...
Besides just being able to cut off paper at any time and having access to free large paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neat trick.
You need smelly markers.
Like the things that smell like watermelon and stuff?
The other markers on the market are cheaper and they will not last you. And you will constantly battle. No one wants to use a yucky marker. The smelly markers last forever. I have to buy very few sets to last the entire school year, and they get used almost every single day. And they're just fun to work with. It is fun. You do have some kids that can't have the smelly markers, so have a backup plan for those kids. But
why?
It gives them like headaches. You're making that face, but I'm telling you, like, some kids, look, everyone wants to use the smelly marker. So if a kid comes to you and says, like, I can't use the smelly marker, it gave me a headache last time, like, part of their soul is sad.
That's a good point.
Like, they don't want to not, like, they're nicer. The colors are nicer. They're fun. It's interactive because everyone wants to smell each other's marker. It's just, trust me, smelly markers, you need them in your classroom. Okay, I have another one. The last one is you need small whiteboards and then colored whiteboard markers.
Wait, what?
So, like, small individualized whiteboards and then colored whiteboard markers. And a lot of schools will put this on their list so kids have their own markers. I will say the downfall of these markers is that they go quickly. So I don't use whiteboard and whiteboard markers very often, but they are definitely helpful. If you're wondering a cheap way to get a bunch of whiteboards, here's my trick. I'm going to mention another place by name. Other big box stores or your local hardware store might do this too, but I know for sure that Home Depot has done this for me and several other teachers around the United States, and that is you can buy 4-foot by 8-foot sheets of whiteboard.
Oh, and then cut it up.
And then they will cut it for you for free into the sizes that you want.
Yeah.
You just tell them you're a teacher. I don't know if it's anyone. I don't know if like Joe Schmo could go ask them to cut a bunch of boards. Maybe they would. I don't know. But I do know that every time I have asked or told someone to go try it, it like worked for them. And the board cost like, I don't know, like it was like the whole project is under $20 to have an entire class set and extras of whiteboards. So there you go. There's my trick for free whiteboards.
What about the slate and the chalk and the inkwell?
I don't know. Maybe those are fun too. Ink's dangerous. I wouldn't recommend ink.
Well, what do you dip the girls' ponytails into the inkwell?
Oh my gosh. I cannot imagine that they gave kids ink. If you've ever worked with ink, you would think not in a million years.
That's back when you could like whip them though.
Oh my gosh.
I imagine they were...
even myself using ink, like you gotta be awfully careful. Okay, so how do you use this stuff in your classroom?
Yes.
Okay, so...
I've got so much stuff now.
So...
I don't know what to do with it.
This is your set of backup supplies, okay? Then you're gonna have learning that you think takes the entire class time. Because in the past, it has taken the entire... Some days, you just have to put them in sit and get mode. Or you just need them to read a thing. Or you need knowledge gained. Right? This is, I'm going to shove your head full of a bunch of stuff. Or we're going to learn a brand new concept and you just have to learn it. So you start the class by saying, we need to learn about blah, 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 blah. So that we can da-da-da-da-da, like your
so often that's exactly what I'm dealing with. I have to learn blah, 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 so I can da, 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 da.
Yes. We are going to do this in 3 parts. Part 1, I need to give you some background knowledge. You're going to need to take notes. You're going to need to fill out this guide. You're going to need to, whatever, you have some sort of graphic organizer, whatever. Then, if we can do that by the timer, so let's say that takes 15 minutes. Let's say I can do it in 10. Then we're going to get the Play-Doh out and we're going to make a little diagram of what we saw with the Play-Doh. So
It's a reward or
it kind of works like a reward, but it also works like I want to know what to do with my Play-Doh because Play-Doh is fun. Like everybody wants to make.
Oh, it gives them a purpose for the learning.
Yeah, and they're going to make a little thing.
Like an immediate purpose, because otherwise you don't know what to do with your Play-Doh.
Yes, Play-Doh is fun to just roll out and make numbers. I mean, I'm telling you, you got to stop thinking inside a box. Like, Play-Doh is insta-fun. It's insta-cleanup. It can turn into anything right away. Like it is fun. Okay. So, they'll be motivated, they'll be focused, and they'll have a moment where they've got this thing to do. And if the timer goes off and you didn't get through all the content, well, then the Play-Doh gets cut. Right? And then, you have
Take
another
that,
cycle.
Kids.
But you break it into chunks so that they have...
Oh, Play-Doh.
This particular instance is Play-Doh. You can do another one where you're like...
I was joking.
Oh, stop
like
it.
Chunks of Play-Doh.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Jared made a joke, and yet again, Johanna did not get it. But you're teaching a process. You're teaching about how something goes from A and turns into B. And before you start that process, you explain, okay, each of you is going to have a section of this paper where you're going to have to show your learning, and you're going to be responsible for different processes. You won't know which section you're assigned to until the end, and we'll draw numbers. So if you draw number 7, you're now responsible for whatever the content was on page 7 or in the chunk of the learning that you call 7.
Yeah, it gives me a purpose for learning the content outside of the long-term goals of like scoring well in the class.
Yeah.
Immediately I'm going to demonstrate that I paid attention to something.
Yes. You can even break it up. I really like breaking up learning into quads of 4. So like, let's say one group has an element of the learning that they're responsible for, and then each group has a different chunk of learning they're responsible for retaining. And then, so like all the ones groups, now you call them A, B, C, D. And then you take all the A's.
Wait, what happened?
Okay. There is a pie.
We're going to break it into 16ths?
No. So you have a whole class.
Uh-huh.
You break them into 4 groups.
Uh-huh.
Each group has a different thing that they are learning.
Yep.
Okay, that's part 1 of the class. Part 2 of the class, they regroup, but now you have groups where each person in the group had learned something different.
Oh, you reorganize them?
Yes.
So that you have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 in each new group?
Yes.
Got it.
And so the kids use the manipulatives that they built and created during the part 1 to teach the other kids their learning in the part 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then you just lay ground rules. Like little kid elementary kindergarten ground rules. And you make them silly. Don't eat the Play-Doh.
Don't eat the Play-Doh.
Don't throw the blocks.
You won't like it anyway.
Don't put marker on somebody's face. Like, I mean...
Even though it smells good.
Even though it smells good. Oh my gosh, the little kids get the marker on their face all the time. So
because you got to smell it.
They got to smell
so
it.
It goes right underneath your nose.
I know, but then like a 6th grader will go and like tap your hand and now you have marker on your nose. So, and then you just have an all or nothing rule. It takes one goober to throw one block.
And then it's ruined for everyone?
It's ruined for everyone. I didn't say it. I don't have Legos on here because I don't like the work of having to take them apart, and I think that the building takes too long.
That's why you like the blocks better?
Yeah, everything on here is about quick, efficient work. Like, I didn't say colored pencils because colored pencils are not quick and efficient. Everything is just quick, efficient.
Oil pastels.
Oil pastels.
Quick and efficient.
Quick and efficient. Instant color.
Blocks, once you're done with them, you just sweep them up back into the bin.
Yeah, building a scene takes like 2 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Do I need more insight into this?
No, but get yourself some Play-Doh. You're not using...
Get Play-Doh.
Get Play-Doh. Okay.
Play-Doh.
Yes.
Not Play-Doh.
Yes.
But Play-Doh.
Yes.
Sponsored by Play-Doh. All right, how am I going to recap this?
I don't know. Do you want to go? I don't know that we need to go through each element.
Well, we'll just recap the things.
Okay.
I mean, Play-Doh, you think, is the just the easiest and best manipulative, and you can make it yourself, and it's great.
Yes.
You have your recipe for Play-Doh that has measurements for flour, water, and salt, and then not measurements for oil and cream of tartar, but a dollop. So figure out what a dollop is, and you'll be able to make it too.
It's like a tablespoon.
Your other manipulatives that you've screened for cleanliness and ease and quickness, right?
Yes.
Scissors. Paper.
Yep.
And is that separate from the butt paper?
Yes, this is like colored paper.
Okay, like construction paper.
Like construction paper.
Glue.
Yes.
But not just glue bottles. Like, get like big like gallon glue and put it into like restaurant oil bottles.
Yes, I should tell them how I organize my paper.
Okay.
So you can either use clear containers or you can use colored containers, but then all the reds and pinks and go in one, and the yellows. And so when you're dealing with like scraps and little things that kids are doing, you just take all the bins and you just lay them out, and kids will take from the blue bin, and then whatever they didn't use, they'll just put back in the blue bin, and it works really well.
The way the scraps take care of themselves instead of just becoming a mess.
Yes. Kids like to, it's natural to want to sort things back to their place, but only if you have a drawer that you have to open or a careful thing you have to slide stuff into, they won't do that. It's got to be kind of an open container.
You'll be able to see them.
Yeah, that they can see into and just drop the stuff into.
Glue in your bottles, blocks, oil pastels, smelly markers, not really because they smell, but just because they're the best for some reason.
They are the best.
Individual whiteboards, which probably the Home Depot can cut up for you, and whiteboard markers that are colorful.
Yes. Worst case scenario, during the learning, you can ask kids a question, and rather than have one kid raise their hand, you have them all write it on the whiteboard and turn and show you their whiteboard.
Yeah. Just like on the slates.
Just like on the slates.
150 years ago.
Yeah, and
Almost.
These are things, it's funny because an elementary teacher might be listening to this and they're like, I have every single one of those things in my classroom. But then we like slowly get rid of them as the kids get older, and then like these need to be in every classroom. They need to be used all the time. I think they need to be in think about how great your next meeting would go if you all could just have some smelly markers.
I don't think it would help.
No, you should ask to try.
But the whiteboard thing's maybe not a terrible idea.
Yeah. Or some Play-Doh.
Yeah. One of my neighbors has kinetic stand that he uses when he's thinking.
We should get him some Play-Doh.
Kinetic stand's pretty neat.
It is.
I wouldn't recommend it for your classroom though.
No.
But same principle, kind of.
All right. I think we did it.
Well, thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Johanna, do you get questions from listeners ever?
Yes, we do.
How do those listeners send you questions?
They send us an email.
Where does that email go?
teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
But wait, What kind of 4? How do I do 4?
All of the 4s. They can do a number 4, they can write the word FOR, or they can do FOUR, even though that one doesn't quite make sense.
Well, perfect. teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.